Okay, we are back. This is Yoga Talks Podcast. My name is Jay Brown. I want to welcome you. Thank you for listening. My friends, I have to tell you, I'm not really all that prepared to be doing this right now. I'm in a pretty foul mood. Just going to tell you right off the bat. I would never normally want to try to record one of these intros in the kind of mood that I'm in right now. But I have no choice because this week completely got away from me. I did good through like Thursday up until Friday, and then it kind of just went south. I hurt myself again. My wife and I are just under a lot of strain. I think it's starting to catch up with us. We're kind of at each other some, which is not helpful. We keep apologizing intermittently, which is nice, but we're just both feeling the strain. I certainly am. And, I don't even know if I want to talk about this, but I have to, because it's what happened today. It's why I'm in a foul mood. Okay, here's why I'm in a foul mood. Facebook. I'm so annoyed that that's why I'm in a foul mood, but it is. You see, I woke up this morning and I was blocked from my Facebook account because I had the word yoga in my name. And it's been like that forever, for years and years and years, because there's a million Jay Browns on Facebook. So I always put Jay Brown Yoga because I'm the Jay Brown who's into yoga. That's why. Well, apparently you're not allowed to do that. I didn't really know. I suppose I might have looked at the whatever agreements or whatever, but they blocked me and they said, if this is your name, send us an ID proving it. So I did that. I submitted a copy of my driver's license, but who knows, man? It's not like you can call somebody on Facebook. Who knows if they're going to get back to me or not? But in the meantime, I'm out. I have no access. And, in all of the advice you get as yoga teachers, right? You're supposed to develop what you do on social media. And a lot of people do everything on Facebook. Like they post their blog posts and all their event stuff and the way they notify of everything. Like instead of having email lists, which is what we used to have, now everybody just does everything on Facebook. I think that's a bad idea, my friends. And today is a perfect example. I spend years putting up what I think is pretty quality posts on Facebook. I don't put crap on there, I don't think. And I build up a friend list almost up to, I think it was like 4,000 friends or something like that. I was almost up to my friend limit and I was going to have to switch over to my page, right? Isn't that what all the yoga teachers do? Like once your friend profiles get filled, then you tell everybody, okay, now I'm posting over on my page, right? I was getting close. Well, not today. See, it's all controlled by somebody else. That little bubble of Facebook on the internet is not the internet. And if you're doing everything through that little bubble, it's not a good idea. So I'm venting a little bit. Clearly you can hear in my voice I'm a bit frustrated by that. It's just like you work hard to like put yourself out there and you utilize these platforms and then like suddenly somebody can just be like, whoop. It's not like they say, oh, if you follow this, then it'll be okay. And you can call somebody. There's no customer service representatives. It's just a void. And it will have a negative impact, like the circulation of my blog and this podcast, people finding out about my video. Like Facebook really does a lot for that. So without it, there will be a negative impact. And I have no control over that. So we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll get an email and it'll come back and I'll get it back again. But in the meantime, I don't know. I feel really almost violated or something, wronged by Facebook. Anyways, I actually don't think it's just the Facebook thing. That's just the trigger. It's part of it. But I'm just freaked out. I'm freaked out, my friends. I'm moving from an apartment that I've been in for the last 6 years, in a neighborhood that I've been in for the last 15, to a completely new place. And that's the dawning realization of that is really hitting home for me and my wife and my children. Even my 7-year-old and I had like a discussion last night on the couch. And she was saying to me that her friends were mad at her because she was leaving. She's like, it's not my fault I'm leaving. And we had a talk about how I think they're not really mad necessarily, just upset that she's leaving. So it's coming down, my friends. It's coming down, and I'm leaving town. I'm going to be gone next week, the Feathered Pipe. And just when I get back, it's like that next few days, heating system goes in, moving day. It's hairy. It's a hairy thing. And I'm going to be at the Feathered Pipe. I'm not even going to be able to have internet access, which that's also, I think, kind of freaking me out. I'm like so addicted to checking in on the internet and everything. The idea that I won't be able to do that is like scary, like things are going to fall apart or something. They probably won't, but it feels that way. Oh, well, I'm sorry. I just feel like I'm complaining. What good is that? Complaining doesn't get me anywhere. I hope you guys are doing okay. I really appreciate all the emails I got this week, though. That's a positive thing that was coming down. A lot of you reached out, shared a little bit about you, and it feels really good to know that you're out there listening, that you're communing with me in these conversations and these little recorded moments. Let me talk about today's podcast. That'd be good. I'm talking to Amber Karnes, and it's appropriate, actually, because she's kind of in the same boat as me. She's in the middle of moving. She's out there trying to make a living as a yoga teacher. And it's funny, you know, we had to cancel several times before we actually recorded, because first she had some crap happen, and then I had some crap happen, and then even I mentioned on the day of this recording, I was like so close to canceling because it was a really not a good day. But we made this promise to each other in the email exchange that we had. At some point after we had canceled a few times, I said to her, hey, you know, I think we should record in the midst. Like, let's not try to wait till everything's okay. Let's just do it while we're freaked out and fucked up. I think that's what I wrote. So she agreed, and then I wasn't going to be the one to back down. So we have this conversation in the midst of a day not unlike the one I'm having today, where things are swirling and maybe a little bit stressful and overwhelming. But in the conversation, I feel like we came together on some things that were very reaffirming, and I really like Amber a lot. So I'm happy for you to hear our talk today. Before we do that, let me mention my stuff. As I said, I'm going to be at the Feathered Pipe, but you'd have to really jump on that like ASAP. Otherwise, I'm going to be in Helsinki, Finland, August 23rd through 30th. And as I mentioned last week, let me mention again, I am going to be putting out there a live stream subscription. All of my public classes on any device for anyone who can't attend in person. Coming soon. It's very exciting. We've been getting that all together. So when I get back from Feathered Pipe, for sure, you're going to have access. So check that out. Coming soon. My blog, the podcast, the video offerings, and the live stream can all be found at jbrownyoga.com. Maybe you would show some support for the podcast. Go to iTunes, write a review, give us some stars, or go to a blog or podcast page and make a direct donation. Those things are very helpful, and I really appreciate it if you wouldn't mind hooking me up. What else? Next week, I'm going to be sharing with you the podcast I recorded at the Accessible Yoga Conference on ageism and ableism. So that's pretty cool. It's the second time I've ever recorded in front of a live audience, and it was with a panel of experts, and I was the moderator. So it's a little bit of a different format, certainly, than than what we usually have here on Yoga Talks podcast, but it was a really amazing experience for me and a very cool conversation, and I'm gonna put it out there for you guys next week. Okay, what else? I don't think I've got anything else, you guys. I'm sorry, that's it. As I said, it has been a crazy day, and I think we're just going to have to leave it at that. So let's go ahead. Let's sit down and have a talk with Amber Karnes. Hello?
Hey.
Oh my gosh, I gotcha.
I'm so sorry.
Is this like a different Skype handle or something like that?
It must be. I think I couldn't get back into my account before, a couple months ago when I needed Skype for something, so I ended up making another one. So.
Oh, that explains.
I'm sorry.
It.
All of this is my fault.
No, not to worry.
I had something that I had Thursday moved to this evening, and so I had that thing happen in my brain where I was like, I'm done for the day. So that's totally my fault for.
I totally understand. I mean, you did send me an email earlier today saying, I'm looking forward to talking tonight.
I know.
But I totally understand because my day was a bit of a clusterfuck as well, honestly. I be perfectly frank with you, I was very close to canceling again because I hurt my back last week. And
I saw, I signed up for the streaming thing, and I saw something if you got injured, and I was I wonder.
You know, what happened was I got hurt last week, and I totally did the right things. It was, on the mend. And then yesterday was a crazy day because I closed on the house yesterday. And I had to drive and go to the bank and, run all around, and then I recorded 2 podcasts in a row, which I never do. But, kind of like a big name person rescheduled, and I was just we got to make it happen. And then after that was done, literally I finished that, a teacher at the yoga center texted me, and once again somebody upstairs was letting their shower run stupid, and water was coming down to the ceiling, and they had to cancel class in the middle of class. So I'd run over to the center, and I was running on adrenaline the whole day, and by the time I got home I felt okay, and I went to sleep. And I woke up 5 hours later. My back was just screaming at me. I was what did you do yesterday?
Oh, man.
But you and I, we've both been going back and forth, and we agreed that we were going to do this talk, even if we were freaked out and fucked up.
We have to do it anyway.
I'm freaked out and fucked up. So we're talking.
Here we are.
And I know you got a lot going on too. You're getting ready to have a move also. Is that right?
Yeah, man. So we're moving next month, and I just have a ton of travel and stuff coming up. And then my parents, of course, are, having a crisis. And
oh, right, your parents.
Now I'm gonna run back and forth to Virginia Beach to help them sell their house and all this different stuff. I'm just a couple of years ago, I was all this crazy stuff was happening. And I'm I wonder when my life will just go back to normal. But I've come to find out that I think this is just adulthood, and it's just going to be this way. So
I think some, but I also think it seems right now, particularly in this moment, things are particularly crazy on a lot of levels. The news today was crazy. Everything feels really crazy today.
Yeah, I haven't even caught up with that.
Because, you don't really want to pay attention because there was I'm not going to mention it because I don't even want to talk about it, but it's all
right.
Stupid stuff happening all over.
Good to know.
But you know what also I noticed while I was sitting here? I noticed because we did talk 2 years ago, almost to the date. It was May 13th, 2015, because, Skype shows it. And I have to say, first of all, that is without a doubt one of the most favorite interviews I've ever done.
Really? That's cool.
I had done a couple interviews before that, but I didn't like any of them, and it was the first time where I felt comfortable with whoever was interviewing me.
Nice.
And I just thought it was a great interview, and I got a lot of compliments, and people have reached out to me a lot after watching it.
Oh, good.
And I have to also, I feel I want to apologize. Maybe I don't need to apologize, but
okay.
I had Dianne Bondy on before you.
Oh, I don't care.
You don't care? Because I just thought, Amber did this wonderful interview with me, and then I really should have had her back on the podcast, and then I had her partner buddy on first, because I had a crush on her because of that video she did, which I learned you gave her. Like, you had her that gig, right? That one.
The commercial.
Yeah.
Yep. They asked me, and I was like, I couldn't do it because of work or something, because I had just gotten a new job, and so I couldn't take off to go do it. And I was like, call Dianne. She's Canadian also, and you're a Canadian company. So
yeah, well, I mean, first of all, it's an incredibly cool thing to do. Like, not a lot of people would do that, and you did that. It's just super cool. Because it's a really good gig. It's like a really good...
I had no idea it was going to be something like that. Like, I was just like, okay, whatever. But I'm really glad she got to do it. Like, that's so super cool. And also, like, anytime I can amplify somebody's work that I love, I'm just like,
but also, you know what it says to me is, like, you got your head on straighter than a lot of other yoga teachers. You know what I mean? Like, because, I mean, that was, I don't know, I read something about you in like 2005 in an interview you gave to Anna Guest Jelly, who was on the podcast recently, actually. And you mentioned that, like, in 2005, you graduated from college and bought your first house and stuff. And I was just like thinking, shit, I'm like 44. I just bought my first house yesterday. Amber's like way on top of it than me, man.
Oh, I still regret buying that house.
So in any case, all of that is to say, it's good to talk to you. And I'm sorry it took so long.
Yeah, man, for sure. No, it's cool. I'm glad that we got a chance to connect. And after I read your post about, like, you shutting down the center, I was like, oh, man, we need to talk, because all that stuff has been sort of weighing on my mind the past year or so, and I've been trying to, like, figure out how to make this happen, like, and make a living doing this. So yeah. I know you're in the middle of it too, so I'm glad we got a chance to talk.
So let's start right there then. Like,
okay.
Like, what was the situation? Because I had, like, a pretty good, like, the center cruised along for a while just fine. Like,
yeah,
I kind of had a real cozy situation. And I've just been doing my thing, and I'm super grateful for that. But then things have changed. And so what's your story? Like, let's go back a little bit then. Like, when did you start teaching?
Okay. So, I started teaching in 2011, I think.
All right.
Is when I finished my teacher training.
And where did you do that?
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Where did you do that training?
I studied with a woman named Anna Pittman. She has a place called The Breathing Space, which is in Blacksburg, Virginia. And she does teacher trainings in West Virginia and a couple places in Virginia as well. And I decided to do teacher training because I wanted to actually just sort of figure out the other side of yoga other than just, like, the exercise part. Because I had practiced for, like, 7 years at that point. And I had a strong practice with the asana, but I didn't know anything about the rest of yoga. I knew there was, like, more to it. So I went in with
So what kind of classes were you taking that you feel like they were asana based, but they didn't have anything else to it? What was sort of like the school or style of practice you were doing for that 7 years?
Yeah, it wasn't super, like, lineage based. I mean, I guess, like, technically it was probably hatha yoga, but, like, But was it more fitness oriented? Yeah, I guess so. And there would be there was, like, pranayama and mindfulness stuff, but it wasn't. I didn't know anything about, like, I didn't even know there was 8 limbs of yoga. And I think, like, with a lot of studios now, with the classes that are taught, they don't leave much room for that. And, like, what people want is, like, to come and sweat or feel like they've gotten their workout in. And so it doesn't leave much room to talk about the other stuff, or either to, really form a relationship with teachers in between classes, because it's like the next class has to be in 10 minutes and that kind of stuff. So
was it like a bigger studio or like a smaller independent studio?
It was, I would say, a smaller studio that I was practicing at primarily. But I also did yoga, like, at the YMCA and stuff like that. So
cool.
Yeah, it was kind of a mix. But anyway, I went into teacher training not really expecting to teach. And then, after I was probably about halfway through, this was a year-long program, so we had like a weekend every 5 weeks or so. So it was really cool. We kind of got to integrate the information and practice some of the stuff over, the month in between when we would come together and study. And I guess about halfway through, I realized that my experience in that class was completely different than almost everybody else. I was the only person in a bigger body in the teacher training program. And a lot of times the teacher would like cue us to do something, and or one of the other trainees would be teaching a sequence. And so I would always, afterward sort of give feedback like, I just want y'all to know what's going on in my body, and I can't like step my foot forward because this is happening or whatever. And so like, I had sort of, I had found a teacher a couple years into my practice who kind of understood how to work with me and showed me how to do modifications and stuff. But, it was not a isolated experience for me to go to a class. It was super common to like be ignored because the teacher wouldn't know like what to do with me, or, just to have a really frustrating experience. And so I was like, I've troubleshot a lot of this stuff just because I had to, because teachers didn't seem to have any idea like what to do with someone who's in a bigger body. And so I was like, if I'm having this experience, I bet other people are too. Maybe I do have something to share,
Yeah, well, let me ask you, because I think a lot of times when someone's in that situation and they're coming up against what you're coming up against, they kind of take it on themselves.
Yep.
Like, it's like, I'm not doing it right.
Yeah.
Or I'm not capable or something.
Uh-huh.
And yet for you didn't react that way.
Yeah,
you were like, hey, wait, you're not able to speak to what's happening in my experience. And that, I'm curious, like, what was it? Like, you made a comment, you said, it became clear to me that my experience was different than theirs. Do you remember anything specific like that happened that was when you figured that out, that it wasn't your fault, or wasn't like you're not good, but it's like they just don't know how to speak to what's happening with my body?
Yeah, I think like that had never, it hadn't really ever occurred to me before I was in teacher training that like, that it was sort of, that they weren't getting the instruction on how to, teach yoga to people in diverse body types. And then also, because we weren't getting any kind of instruction like that in my course. And then also that, the reason that I was probably getting ignored in yoga classes was because the teacher didn't understand what was going on. And like, it took me just being like the loud person that I am in teacher training just to be like, I can't like put my leg there in this lunge. Like it's not going to happen in my body because my belly's running into my thigh or like whatever.
Yeah.
I think like at that point I was kind of, comfortable in the body that I'm in and just like, this is how I move through the world. And so it was easy for me to kind of speak up and be like, yo, that's not what's going on over here. Just so you guys know, if you have a bigger student, they're not going to be able to do that. So
how did that happen for you? How did you get to be okay in your body? Did that happen through the yoga that you did prior to the training, or?
It did. So like, I think a couple of things, like I definitely, like when I came to yoga, I was in my early 20s and I was on, some big weight loss project as usual. And like the trainer at this gym I was a part of was like, you should do yoga on your rest days because like you'll still burn calories, but it doesn't really count as working out. And I was like, ooh, cool. Yahtzee, like a way to get done with this project faster. So like I was like, I don't think fat people go to yoga, but I was like, whatever, I'm going to try it. So I went to a studio and like, I don't remember anything about what we did in the class. I think it was like an Anusara class, but I really don't remember anything about it. But what I do remember was leaving the class, walking out to my car and starting the car and driving home. And then like 5 or 10 minutes down the road, the like soundtrack started back up that I, always had running in my head about, second guessing myself or, oh my God, you're so fat, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, what about that stupid thing you said? And like the thing that I realized was like, it had stopped even like for a few minutes. And I was like, whoa, that's kind of weird. I have to like check that out. So I started going back, and I couldn't have really like articulated at the time, but I was like in my body for the first time in a really long time, like probably since I was, in early teens, and I was playing sports and stuff like that. So
you like break the chain of that like thought spiral, that like negative thought spiral for like a period of time.
Right.
You're not in that spiral. And then when you're back, you're like, wait a second. You have it to compare to. There was a period of time where I wasn't doing that.
Yeah, for sure. And so it was like, I kind of became addicted to that like quietness of, where my stupid like anxiety thought swirls would happen, and that being turned off was really powerful for me, because I could actually exist for, even if it was a short period of time, without a constant like judgment. And
that's not really about fitness, is it?
No, it wasn't.
It's like mental clarity and sanity or something.
Right. And so, but what I did find was that like, for me, embodied movement was like the path to get there. So for me, that was yoga and weightlifting. Like both of those things did that for me. And I also found that like, as I became more, physically fluent and understood my body better, that I was able to also like trust it a little bit more, that like it was a safe place to be. And that even though it was the opposite of like what society said was worthy or desirable or whatever, I felt strong, I felt capable, I felt, sure about myself physically and the things that I could do and accomplish. And I had the added benefit of like the judgment thought spiral would stop for while I was doing it and a little bit of time after. And like, then I was, that was huge. That was really, really powerful. And
well, when I talked with Anna Jelly, she talked a lot about how everyone was always telling her she had to lose weight. And I'm curious, like, because you made this like shift or whatever, I mean, it seems like you found your way to what I think is the most powerful thing about yoga. I often talk about this, is that like the fixing and releasing of your attention on this body practice or movement practice or breath practice, it helps develop some kind of facility with your ability to point your mind at something, keep it there for as long as you want, and then release it.
Yeah.
And that basic fundamental thing of like being able to fix and release my attention means that like I sometimes have more say about what my mind does. And that to me is like the most powerful thing that my yoga practice does, in a way, is like internal management skills or something like that.
Yeah, that's a really great way to put that. I totally agree. I've had the same kind of experience for sure.
And then once I have that, I became less interested in like it being about like developing my physical capability, or like maximizing what I can do physically. It became more about like, oh, can I have a say about where my freaking mind goes?
Yeah, it was definitely. I am in a bigger body, but I've never felt really limited by that, other than in the sort of arena of like judgment and other people's, opinions and, the stuff I run into, in society with that kind of stuff. But like, it never stopped me from, running a 5K if I wanted to, or doing CrossFit for several years, or, practicing yoga or whatever. Like, I've always been kind of like okay with humiliating myself in fitness environments if I wanted to try something.
Yeah.
So, for me, it was definitely like not about the physical part of it. And I've never really been drawn to like the super sweaty, like hot yoga, fast vinyasa classes. Like, I've done that stuff, but it wasn't, it didn't even get me the same sort of like experience that I was after, as far as like the mind stuff, because for me, really, I need to like connect with the movement that I'm doing, to feel, that, I guess, mind-body connection that allows me to, like you said, like have those internal management skills. And so, I definitely have had a similar experience, it sounds like, to you, where it just...
Well, that's really what brought us together for your Body Positive interview, because you read my article on the slow yoga revolution. Right. I remember you like read a cool quote from it that was about how like slow yoga is not about the pace, but it's about like the purpose and taking emphasis off of accomplishing something and putting it more on experiencing something.
Yeah, for sure. And I just came off a weekend of workshops with Jules Mitchell. I don't know if you're familiar with her.
I've heard of her, but I don't really know her very well.
Yes, she's a biomechanist, and she's also a yoga person, yoga teacher, and everything. And so it was kind of about the science of movement. But one of the things that stuck with me that she cued us in a class that we were doing with her was she kept saying, like, this pose isn't about achieving, it's about learning something about your own body. And I really resonated with that, which kind of, I feel like that sentiment sort of sums up like my yoga journey is like, I'm always a student of my body and my mind and kind of like getting to know myself better. And yoga has really been like a tool that's helped me to do that.
Amen. Amen. All right. So I came into that teacher training with like a good degree of like self-worth already, which is a beautiful thing. I feel like sometimes people go into teacher training to get the thing, but you went in there with that, and that's pretty cool. So that helped you be able to see that some of what was being offered in the training didn't always translate to you in the way that you needed yoga to translate to you. Yeah.
And, a lot of that training really, did change my life. As a lot of inner work and, sort of, I would say that my teacher there, her specialty is not asana. It's like the rest of yoga. And she, and that was super valuable to me. And the asana portion of it, I ended up getting to contribute a lot because I was in a different body than most everybody else who was in there, which was, young, skinny, bendy people. And
very cool that you felt the freedom to speak like that. You know what I'm saying? Or like maybe you got in trouble, but like I think that's cool that you were able to, because I know that a lot of people don't always feel comfortable to speak out when they have problems with what's going on in their teacher training.
Right. Yeah, and credit goes to Anna for like being open to that kind of stuff because early on, like I think I remember like talking to her, not in the middle of class in front of everybody and being like, is it okay if I like tell the other teachers like what's going on with me? Cause like they might have someone like me in their class. And so I felt really free to speak up. And also I'm just a loud, audacious person sometimes. So I think like
it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And also, I mean, again, I'm assuming there wasn't other bigger bodied people in the room?
There were not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all right, so she was open to that, and how did the other like teachers react?
Well, I don't really super remember any, specific incidents or events or anything, but I do remember like, folks seemed open to hearing that kind of stuff because I think, coming out of teacher training and then sort of being thrown into the sea of like teaching group classes or especially like multi-level classes or things like that. It's like you don't really leave teacher training know how to teach beginners or folks that have like special issues. You kind of leave knowing how to teach other yoga teachers like intermediate students.
I say that all the time. You see, one of the things I don't do in my teacher training, which is sort of unheard of, I guess, is I never have like the teachers teach the other teachers to practice. Mm-hmm. Like, I never do that because I just feel like it's so abstracted. That's not at all what it will ever be like.
Right. So, but I think you're probably the exception. You know, there's probably not that many programs where it's that carefully sort of considered. And so, I think a lot of teachers have fear about, like, they don't know very much. They might hurt someone. They don't know how to work with a body. And so rather than take the time to sort of like try to troubleshoot it in class, it's like, well, I better just ignore this person. And then that's like a terrible experience for the person who's there. So I think like they knew that, they'd probably seen that happen in classes. They know that they're not going to get all like advanced practitioners all the time. And so it seemed like they were open and sort of grateful for any information that I could give them that, wasn't sort of included. So, yeah, it worked out.
I just would jump in to say, I know, like, doing the podcast and sort of trying to, like, get myself out of my comfort zone and talk to people who have really different experiences than me. I know that I have all this nervousness around it sometimes. And whenever somebody's just, like, open and cool and allows me to say stupid things if I say stupid things or whatever, then it's like, I'm very grateful for that.
Right. Yeah, me too. If people allow me to kind of mess up, and they'll just be frank with me. Like, I really always appreciate that. So,
yeah, cool.
You know.
All right. So you finish your teacher training, right? And do you start teaching? You said you didn't go in to teach, but by the time you're done, you're like, wait a second, I know there's other people out there like me. Yeah,
I did. And luckily, you know, one of my close friends, who's also, you know, I consider one of my teachers, and she owns a studio in Norfolk, which is where I was living at the time. And so I was able to start teaching right away. And so that was, you know,
cool that she gave you that opportunity, you know?
Yeah. So I was able to sort of build a class like from scratch. And is
that where body positive yoga was born?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I started blogging, I guess, under that name, like halfway through teacher training when I decided, like, okay, I'm going to do this for real. And so, but then that was like the first class that I started. And I guess I started teaching it while I was still in teacher training, like towards the end or something. But,
did you have any models, like other people who were teaching kind of like body positive type yoga practice or whatever? Or was it just like in you doing it? Did you have anybody you were modeling off of?
Not really. I mean, so at that point, and I guess this was, you know, 2011, there was not very many people online, you know, that I could, there was definitely nobody in town that I could like mentor with or whatever. And I guess Jelly had a blog that she had started like a year ago. And Dianne Bondy, I think, had some YouTube videos, but it was like, it wasn't a thing like it is now.
I know. That's what I'm kind of getting at. I remember back then it wasn't a conversation that anybody was having.
No, it was not. So it was very, very little information out there. Oh, Abby Lentz like had a DVD, but like I didn't have it. You know, so there was some people doing some stuff. Oh, Patricia, what's her name? Patricia Kerr had Big Yoga. There was a book. So like there was a few things, but it wasn't like, oh, well, I can go like watch this content and then have some tips. It was kind of like, okay, I'm going to take what I have in teacher training. I'm going to take this sort of self-acceptance work that I've been doing for several years now and sort of try to mash them together with my own experience. And
let's also mention that you also have like a degree in graphic design and you do like, you're like a marketing director and stuff, right? Like we said earlier, you had like a real job, which is why you didn't take the commercial that you gave to Dianne. Was that your real gig is like you had like make decent money as a marketing director. Is that right?
That is right. So, yeah, I mean, I had, you know, kind of all that going on. And I also, I really enjoyed sort of the challenge of like building up, you know, a class and working on, you know, I guess gathering together a following of students where there was none. You know, I've always enjoyed sort of community building stuff. Like I was, you know, I booked punk and hardcore shows when I was a teenager.
Nice.
And I was part of that scene. And like, I have done, you know, collectives for artists and stuff like that. So it was kind of another little project like that. Like I get to throw an event every week. And so, I really enjoyed sort of the creative, like marketing challenge. And this was like before Facebook was a big deal or anything, you know, it wasn't like, we'll make an event and then everybody would show up. It was like, you had to hustle a little bit. So that was kind of fun. And
let me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but let me ask you like a quick side question. Cause I noticed, I don't know if you still work for the same company, but you were working for something called Powerful Learning Practice. Is that right?
Yeah, that was my, that's actually my mom's company.
Oh.
So yeah, what's your...
well, the reason I want to ask about it is because I just got an email today from the Yoga Alliance because I'm on like some list, like whenever the standards committee wants to like poll membership, they have like a smaller pool of people. I got put on this list like years ago. So like very rarely do I get an email, but there's all this stuff going on at the Yoga Alliance. And I believe this will play after my talk with Andrew Tanner, which we talk about it. But basically what it was about is potentially adding some new layer of credential that is about distance educator training, like professional distance learning training, and that if you were like an ERYT person and you got like an additional whatever it was, like 300, 500 hours in 6 months of this, I'm not sure, distance education training or whatever that means, then you would be able to do online stuff and it will count as contact hours. but it was about this additional training that was like professional distance, like not like it's in other industries as well.
Yep, it is. Yep.
And is that what that is? Is that what powerful learning practice is?
That's part of it. So they definitely have, so it's a professional development organization for what they like to call connected educators. So like they work with teachers at all different levels, university, all the way down to like, grade school, on how to integrate technology into their classrooms and also things like that. So they did have a course called, I'm not going to remember the name of it now, probably like teaching online or something like that, where you can be certified to become an online facilitator, because it is a different animal.
Yeah, but here's my question about that, because like a lot of the people who would be getting that credential, like myself, I think, and probably you, we've already been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
So what's the training going to do?
Well, the training's probably going to reinforce some stuff that you've learned by doing.
Yeah, and it's just another hoop that we would jump through so that people could have contact hours with us, basically.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. That's what I thought. But it is a thing. That was my question. There is this like professional distance education in other industries, not just yoga, and they're modeling it after that, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. And, there's what they refer to as like blended learning situations and, classrooms. They're even doing this like with, high school and middle school now, where you can like take some stuff online and some stuff in person and still get the same.
If you are hearing this message, then you're listening to the free version of J. Brown Yoga Talks. To hear the rest of our conversation, please subscribe to Podcast Premium at jbrownyoga.com/premium.